Hello, and welcome to Uncluttered, the podcast that discusses the connection between faith and organizing. We're not focused just on how to be organized, but why it's important from a biblical aspect to leave the clutter and the chaos in our lives behind. I'm Angie Heitch, an author and certified professional organizer living in East Tennessee. Are you ready to unclutter your heart and your home so you can make room for what matters most? If so, let's dive in. All right. If you are a regular listener or viewer of our podcast, you will notice that something was different right from the get go. We are missing Leanna George, co host and friend. No worries, she is doing well. We just had some scheduling issues and she was not able to be on this podcast today. But the great news is that I'm not by myself. I have fellow certified professional organizer and friend Kate Bosch is here to join us for this episode. Welcome, Kate. We're so excited to have you.
Hey, thank you, Angie. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I know we've talked about the podcast before, and so you know a little bit about it. And so I just am so excited I know our listeners are going to get so much out of what you have to share today. So would love to start by just, you've got such an interesting background. We've talked about it some when we've met. And then I also was on your website right before and kind of reminding myself of all the different things you did before getting into organizing.
Yes, my
And
sequential life.
yes. So tell us, our listeners, a little bit about how you got into the organizing business and also about what kinds of services you provide, both in person and virtual.
Well, I started my business in 2016, but I really started organizing. I think a lot of professional organizers have this
Yes.
backstory, but I
Mhm.
remember organizing my toy chest as a kid, and I organized my best friend in high school was messy, 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 and so I would go over to her house and organize her room, and you
Yes.
know, but I didn't really think of it as doing it as a profession
Right.
until much later. And so before that, I did other things. I studied art history in college. I ended up marrying an artist. So my husband's a professor and an artist. So that's sort of where the art connection still comes in. But I also
Uh-huh.
have done other things. Um, I was in the retail industry for a while in corporate, and then I owned my own store. It was a shoe and hat boutique. I was a milliner, so I made hats for the store, and we sold shoes, and then eventually sold that, was a stay-at-home mom and full-time volunteer, I think, at all my kids stuff
Mhm.
for a little over a decade. And once the kids were settled in school, I wanted to start a business again because I really enjoy running my own business and organizing. It just seemed the time was right for that, and it had come onto my radar that this is something you can do professionally. It's something I enjoy doing. I like being with clients one-on-one,
Mhm.
and that connection that we make, and it's such a privilege to be invited into their homes. So that's where it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and I don't think I knew the name of your shop before I looked on your website, and it's so great, Head Over Heels,
It
which
was
is
head over heels. Yep, that was suggested by a friend of mine.
yeah, nice. And
My
you are in Providence, Rhode Island, right? So as
I
far as
am now.
in-person organizing, and you do that area and also some of Massachusetts and Connecticut,
Yes,
correct?
little tiny Rhode Island is so small that
Yeah,
we can easily touch
right.
Connecticut and Massachusetts. So
Yeah.
that greater area, and I do virtual organizing. So anywhere people are, I can meet with them this way, just like we are now, and help them get organized virtually. So.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So, to share with our listeners your connection to me and Leanna.
Well, my connection to you, I don't actually know Leanna, but I know you from, we met at a NAPO conference several years
Mhm.
ago, pre-COVID, right? So, and we had both joined Faithful Organizers at that point, or I was just joining, just finding
Mhm.
out about it. And so that's how we know each other through that. And we've kind of interacted in those circles through the years, right? And we both
Yes.
worked on the new Faithful Organizers devotional book, getting that published. You carried the heavy load on that, and I did a little bit of helping on it.
Oh,
So
you did a lot more helping than you think. Yes, and I always forget that, that you have no connection yet with Leanna, and so which is kind of a bummer that she couldn't join us
I
today.
know, but I know I'll
But
meet her at some point, and yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned the book because I've never mentioned it before. It's kind of like a tiny niche because it's for other organizers, but that was
It is,
a
but
great project.
it was a great project. I think the finished product is wonderful. It's a wonderful encouragement to professional organizers in their business. Sort of, I
Yeah.
mean, this is more, you know, for for people finding out about the organizing business, for people who want to be organized in their homes, but it's important also that we feed each other as professional organizers.
Yes, absolutely. And Faithful Organizers, I've not really talked about that much on the podcast. It's a nationwide group of Christian professional organizers. And we have a website, faithfulorganizers.com. And there is a link there for you to, if you want to specifically search to see if there's a Christian professional organizer that's a part of our group in your area, then you can search there. We also have a monthly blog, and so some neat stuff that going on, and it's been
Yeah,
a real blessing for me in my professional and personal life. So
definitely.
yeah. All right. So since we are a Christian podcast and we're talking about faithful organizers, would you mind telling us a little bit about your faith story?
Um, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little unusual. I grew up in a very not religious home,
Mm,
um, and then it was in my like late 20s. My husband and I had just gotten married, and I think God just began to pursue me and pursue my heart,
mm,
and um, slowly over a series of steps brought me to, and I started going to a little, very, very little church right around the corner from where we lived, um, and it found it to be a place where it was just a really lovely, warm, welcoming group of people
mm,
who very patiently taught and discipled me, and mm, we're very happy to kind of have somebody new in their
mhm,
midst. And yeah, so that's kind of where I got my start. Eventually my husband started coming to the church with me, and I was baptized there, but we did eventually, he was raised Lutheran and wanted to get back to those roots. He's from
mhm.
Ohio. There aren't a whole lot of Lutherans here in New England, but in Ohio there are lots. And
Okay.
yeah, so then we found our present church and have been there for um, gosh, almost, I mean, I think almost 20 years now. So,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful how God pursues us, and He pursues us differently in different phases of our life. And sometimes it's just a matter of when the timing is right, when we sense that pursuit and are willing to say yes. And then I mean he keeps doing that,
Yes, and in
even
hindsight, it's easy to look back and see those
oh,
steps and stuff
absolutely.
when you're in it at the beginning or before. I would never have guessed that I would be on this path,
Right.
but yeah, looking back, I can see all the ways that he was so patient with me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's
So,
neat.
yeah.
That's a great story. All right. So as you know, our podcast discusses the connection between faith and organizing. And sometimes when I talk about that to someone about the podcast or our upcoming book, that I kind of get this quizzical look on their face, huh? Connection between faith and organizing. And maybe it doesn't come quickly, but obviously we feel like there's a big connection. I'm just curious about what you think about how you see the connection between faith and organizing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wonder, like, if at first people are gonna think like, "Oh, are you telling me it's a sin to be disorganized?" And that's absolutely not
Right.
what we're
And we
saying,
we
right?
actually one of our first episodes was titled that. Yeah.
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 Yes, I remember that episode I listened, but it's not, so no, the connection really is, I think, in that I touched on it earlier when I said it's really a privilege to be allowed into people's homes and into this intimate space of their lives to help them um, really make their house a home in this way, make it function for them,
Mhm.
make it orderly. And I think that the faith connection comes in with that. It's um, making space for the things that they value, and
Mhm.
so helping them live, whether they're, I mean, obviously many of my clients are not Christian, but I do feel like um, it's a privilege to be allowed into their home to show them God's love through my work.
Yeah,
So
that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, we talk a lot about how, uh, like, when people think about organizing, they might think of the Home Edit or Marie Kondo or, that kind of thing, but that, the beginning of order happened, like, before the world even began, and,
yeah.
it's all from God. Everything is from God
Yes.
ultimately.
I
So
always love that because I love how on like I did a little presentation to a Christian school, middle school, and they got it right away, which was great. But I was like, well, what did God create on day two? And he created order. He created separation. He
mm,
didn't create a thing. He created a system of
oh, that's
separating the
really
heavens and the
neat.
earth. So
Yeah,
yeah.
never even thought about it like that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. All right, so when you are with your clients, um do you ever have opportunities to talk about your faith? And if so, how do those conversations go?
Um, I don't think it doesn't often come up. I mean, it may
Mhm,
come up in that um, I really focus really heavily on the client and her needs and goals and
mhm,
how to, to listen so that I'm really understanding what the client where the client is now, where they need to go, how I can help
mhm.
them get there. Um, if if they want to, sometimes things get personal, right? And they
Oh,
ask me
yeah,
about things, and of course, yeah. I mean, I
absolutely.
said like once if I'm folding your underwear drawer, then we're on a, you know, we get to know each other pretty quick. So,
Absolutely.
and really, it's just for me about like having them understand that if anything, my faith informs the integrity with which I work with them.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
So, and if their faith is part of their home life and what they want to, you know, bring out and honor through the organizing work, then that shines through too.
Mhm. Yeah, in Faithful Organizers, one of the things that we talk about is that we kind of sandwich every session in prayer. We pray before we go in, that we would be patient and kind and loving and God would give us ideas and insight, and then we do our best work and try to really, show God's qualities, and then pray at the end of the session. And I think, most of the time our clients probably have no clue that that's going on, but uh, it's just like anything, really. If you're living out your faith, it really should affect every single thing you do, every part of your life. You don't have your little churchy life here in one section and then the whole rest of your life. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. And talking about it as far as integrity and the way you run your business and your principles. So I love
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I think a lot of clients are really, we did talk about how personal it can get. So they're sometimes
Mhm.
worried about, confidentiality and things like that. And
Mhm.
that just is absolutely, of course, I wouldn't share their private information with anybody else because
Right.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
not part of the ethics of an organizer or a Christian organizer.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Okay. So, what are some takeaways from working with clients that you've learned that you have perhaps applied to your own life and your faith? We go into sessions, uh, wanting to teach and help, and so many times we end up learning things from our clients as well.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I've learned just overall through being an organizer and working with clients is that um, I don't go in with my goals and impose them on the client. I'm there to help them figure out what their goals are and
Mhm.
implement those. They may not know right away. They may need me
Right.
to ask them questions and to help figure it out. But when I don't need to put my like perfectionism on them. If they're done, if they say it's organized enough and it's good
Right.
and they like it this way and this is a way that they can maintain it, I don't need to try to take it to the next level because that might not be something that they can maintain or live with. They may not want to live that way, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing, is to just be really aware of listening and of not imposing my own goals or mindset on them, but using my creativity to help achieve their goals.
Mhm.
One of the other things is I'm working with a client. It's a client I've known for years. We worked on and off on various, her house, and then she moved to the next house and
Mhm.
things like that. But now she needs help. We're working on scheduling
Okay.
and organizing her schedule and making sure that she wants to be more intentional about planning time for herself and her husband, planning time for their social life, for interacting with friends, so that the time
Mhm.
just doesn't slip away and they've both just worked the whole weekend.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought, well, I it's one of those things where I know that I can help her, and I'm pretty good at that, and I'm not so great at applying that to myself. So
Oh
I
my
thought,
goodness.
okay,
I hear you on that one.
yeah, yes. When in your book, I remember, I think it was it schedule clutter? That was
Mhm.
one of the big, it was
Yes.
like, oh yeah, I felt like that was the section that I really need help guarding for myself. So
Mm.
it's actually great to work with a client on this because I can bring those lessons home and apply them to my own life, take my own advice, which I know it's solid advice. It's just I don't always do it myself. So
Right. Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I have things happen probably, I would say at least on a monthly basis, maybe even weekly, where I'll say, well, here's another situation where I did not follow the advice that I give out all the time.
Yes.
This needs to go back to its home, or
Oh, I just had
it
that
just,
happen. I lost an
yeah.
earbud because I hadn't put it back in its home, and yep, organize yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I say,
Yeah,
physician, heal thyself. So
right.
organizer, organize yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's good. All right. All right. So let's talk about when you're getting ready. So you're talking about going in with clients.
yep.
Tell me about a few of the things in your organizing bag that
Okay.
you use a lot, and may give some listeners ideas for things that they may want to have on hand for their projects.
Yeah. So my clients are always, it's funny, they're always a little bit fascinated by my bag. One client
Uh-huh.
called it like my Mary Poppins bag. She's like,
Uh-huh.
what else do you have in there? They want to peek in, like, you've
Yeah.
got everything in there. And it is very organized, I have to say. I like my bag. There are a lot of things. I mean, the number one organizers tool, it's a cliche, but it's true, is my Brother P Touch label maker,
Oh,
because
I love my
labeling,
brother Pete Touch.
it's
Yes.
the best label maker, first of all,
Yes.
although I have my eyes on their cube one, the one
Uh-huh.
that's like digital. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's just the fancy upgrade.
Right.
The regular old one that's not that expensive is
Mhm.
really awesome. The tape is great. It just sticks. It adheres. It's just it's good quality. You don't want to skimp on those. And
Yeah.
labels keep everyone honest. It keeps
Mhm.
as to where things go when you're especially when you're putting them back. Like, that's
Yes.
the main thing, and it creates buy-in for the whole family
Mhm.
or the whole household.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
can't say anymore, "I don't know where that goes." Yes.
it goes right there
Mhm.
where it's labeled exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the best thing. But then there are like staples. Like, I've always got Sharpies. I also love this. There's this Rev Mark white marker that's great for like
Okay.
when you've got the big black trash bags. You can write on those.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. So I always have it's like a white industrial marker.
Mhm.
Um, Hair ties. I buy hair ties at
Mm.
the dollar store all the time because those are so great for everything. Like, you can buy special cord wraps and things for corralling cords, but I find hair ties to work just as well, and they're
That's nice, yeah.
easy to find. Yeah, they're great
Yeah.
for gift wrap, putting on the gift wrap
Mhm.
rolls. All
Yes.
kinds of things can be done with hair ties, and they don't, unlike a rubber band that corrodes. I had a client who loved to rubber band her scarves,
Right.
and she rubber banded everything. But then we'd find these desiccated rubber bands, like half stuck to the silk scarf and ruining
Yes.
it. So, but because the hair ties are coated, they're not going to ruin it.
I
So,
never thought about that, but yeah, I mean, you think about when you're in those desk drawers and stuff, and all those rubber bands that have literally like are falling apart. So hair
mhm,
ties, love it.
hair
I
ties,
learned something.
that's my
Yes.
best thing. So yeah, and then you know, there are also all the basics, but those are my
Yeah.
best.
I'm thinking that I remember a post, social media post or something where you maybe even showed your bag and you
Yeah,
had like lots of little
I had a
individual
blog
bags within
post.
the bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Oh
was
yeah, I love
amazing.
I do use those jewelry roll. You can get those pretty cheap
Yes,
anywhere.
I
The
remember that.
the travel jewelry cases
Mhm.
that fold up or roll up or whatever, and usually have like zippered little clear pockets. Clear is
Right.
key because then
Yes.
you can see what's in it. Yeah, so I just have a couple of those in my bag, and then I can unroll them, and it has
Mhm.
all the stuff.
Yeah, and since I happened to mention that, I will say that you should definitely follow Kate Bosch on social media because she has great posts and also she has a tremendous blog. So if you go on her website, which is katebosch.org, right?
Yep.
BOSCH.org, she's always got great things to share, and I often
Thank you.
reshare. So
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
All right. So speaking of organizing stuff, what are some of your favorite organizing products and where do you like to go to shop for them?
Um, well, I mean, the Container Store is kind of every organizer's dream store.
Oh yeah.
It is beautiful, but that's not the only place to get organizing
Mhm.
products.
Right.
And I'm also not a product heavy organizer. Like I know the Home
Yeah.
Edit is beautiful, Candy, they put everything in beautiful
Oh
containers and
yeah.
stuff. But
Rainbow order, all that. Yeah.
I like to work with what a client already has. I usually
Yes.
find that they have a lot of organizing supplies at the ready.
Mhm.
Sometimes a job really is sometimes a client is best served by buying a new product to really make things easier, but
Mhm.
often we can make do with what they have. So
Right.
that said, sometimes the Container Store is a little pricier than people want to pay, and I think you
Right.
can find great organizing products that don't have to be that expensive. I mean,
Mhm.
at Amazon, Walmart has a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Like they have um, a lot of canvas things for like in their laundry section that are really
Mhm.
useful. Design, but and a local favorite that I'll give a shout out to is Ocean State Job Lot, which Rhode Island is the ocean state. So
Ocean,
in New
what is it?
England,
Ocean
Ro-
State what?
Job Lot.
Okay.
Eh,
Interesting.
So it's like I don't know. There are stores nationwide, Big Lots and those kind of stores. It's sort of like that, only way better. And they often have really good organizing products. So if
Nice.
you're in the New England area, look up Ocean State Job Lot.
Yeah. Okay. I
Mhm.
love it. Um, and then yeah, awesome. So let's see, where are we? Oh, so are there any particular organizing books or podcasts um,
Well,
that
yours, of
you
course.
that you regularly find yourself mentioning to people because you find they're super helpful to people like your clients?
Yeah, well, I have a resources page on my website that does
Yes.
list
In
some of
fact,
these
I
things.
noticed that since I was on there just a few minutes before, I noticed you have a lot of really great resources on your website,
Thank
and
you.
really cool that I found on your recommended books. My book was on there. Thank
Yes, I
you.
should
Thank
actually put
you
your
so much.
now that I realize I need to get your podcast on there too because I have another podcast, so I'll definitely let's make that happen. But the podcast I have on there is my friend Lori Palau's Disorganized Life podcast.
Okay,
Um,
I have not been to that one.
yeah,
So
she's fun.
disorganized life. Okay.
Disorganized Life, and she this year she started also doing some like mini like tip of the week podcasts. So she has
Nice.
a regular like long form, and then she has these mini, just very targeted ones. So those are fun and can sometimes be a great resource for clients too, because it's like a very specific
Right.
problem that she's solving with those.
Yeah.
So that's good. And as far as books, like I do, yeah, your book was great. I thought really touched on a lot of things that people don't typically think, like the schedule clutter, the attention clutter, things
Mhm.
like that, that we don't really realize that contributes to physical clutter too, and that,
Mhm.
you know, is also part of it. But like a more sort of traditional organizing book, my favorite ever is Peter Walsh. It's All Too Much.
Mm.
I think just he's kind of the OG organizer extraordinaire, and
Yeah.
his book is it's fun to read. He's very a great storyteller about different situations and things, and I think people really can relate to it, and helps people get into the mindset of realizing how much their stuff is weighing them down.
I
And
have to confess I have not read that. I'm putting it on
oh,
my
it's so
list right
good.
now.
I've read it a few I've read it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah. He really gets into, like, the why behind the disorganization, like, yeah, what's
Yeah.
going on? Why are they holding on to this stuff that's just too much for them?
Yeah. I always say there's so much psychology when we talk about our relationship with our things. And sometimes really digging down deeply into that why can be just so illuminating and help us get through those obstacles because there's so many things that are stopping us. We have great
Right.
intentions and then those whys and the emotional connection sometimes make that difficult to actually, just take that step to make progress.
It does, and I think he's one of the people that helped me realize understand that sometimes the reason why someone's holding on to something is a negative reason. It's not always
Mhm.
because they love this thing so much that they're holding on to it. It might be associated with negative memories or painful times, and then it's kind of a delicate situation to help them realize that they might not wanna hold on to that negativity anymore.
It's interesting. It's almost like a little bit of punishment or something. Not necessarily punishment, but yeah, that's an area I haven't really explored either. Another fellow organizer, Julie Bestry of Best Results
Yeah,
Organizing. Um, I'm doing a series in my newspaper article blog about categories of clutter, and that was one of the ones that she mentioned. And I was like, "Really? Is that really a thing that people keep the negative stuff?" And the more that I thought about it, it really is.
yeah, whether it's, like, something that's, like, holding on to a grudge they have with a family member or something,
Mm,
or things like sometimes I'll be with a client, organizing some things that were from a loved one who passed away,
mhm,
and they'll save all of, like, multiple copies of the funeral program and the prayer cards and
mm,
things like that,
mhm.
and totally, yes, you probably do wanna save some of that, but maybe I try to help them see that maybe they want the focus to be on the best part of how that person lived, the best
Right,
part of their life,
exactly.
as opposed to the end of life.
Right.
And then usually, you know, and that's not to, you know, blame them for holding on to that or anything, but
Mm,
just to help them to honor that person in the way that would be most special to them. And is saving the funeral mementos most special, or is saving
yeah.
that picture from the really amazing 40th birthday party more special, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's really good. My father passed away a few months ago, and of
Yeah.
course, I kept some of this stuff funeral-wise and stuff, but I made a point to get a, canvas picture made of my favorite picture of the 2 of us together, and it's in my office, and I look at it every day, and,
That's
um
awesome.
yeah, and, so I love that, having something to remind you of the best part of their life is a
Yeah.
really good tip.
Yeah, my father passed away, 7 years ago, and I actually have a mug that someone had made of a thing that it was something he worked on. He was an economist, and
Hmm,
it's an equation. It was one of his theories. So it's on
okay.
this mug. It's just very like no one else would know that that's what that
Right.
is. And but I can, have my tea in the
Yeah.
evenings in that mug and just remember him. And that's really, yeah,
Yeah,
a
that's so
special
specific.
connection.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. All right. So, as you know, in our podcast, we talk about three main areas of clutter: the physical clutter of stuff, schedule clutter, and attention or mental clutter. If you feel comfortable, and you've already hinted at this a little bit,
Yeah.
which one you struggle with, but maybe
Yeah.
just a little bit more about what is difficult for you and what has helped you be successful in trying to conquer that clutter.
Yeah. So obviously schedule. I mentioned it before.
Right.
And I saw this great meme. It was like of a guy who's totally stressed out. It was like realizing you traded a 9 to 5 to work 24/7 so you could be your own boss and have a flexible schedule. Like,
Oh my goodness.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I just think, where does the time go? I'm the kind of person who likes to be like, you can tell I probably should slow it down. I'm a fast talker. I'm a doer. I like to be active and busy, and productive and doing things. And it's just energizing and fun to me. But I can also
Yeah.
get kind of like really lost in the work and in doing things and getting things done, and
Yeah.
forget to um, slow down and turn it off sometimes.
Mhm.
And so, honestly, to combat that, I actually have I have a one of the things that I've done the last year is that I have a friend who's sort of getting into the coaching arena, and so I've been working with her to
Mm.
actually, I'll sort of tell her about like what I've been doing the past few days, and she helps me figure out like, well, when do you have time to sit down, and like, when's your devotional time or your prayer time? When
Mm.
is your, you
Mhm.
know, quiet time? You need to like, and she keeps me accountable because I had
Yeah.
gotten off of like, okay, I'd been like just on my phone too late. She's like, okay,
Mhm.
we got to shut that down. This week it's going to be 9 o'clock. Next week it'll be 8 o'clock that you put your phone to bed. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so having that accountability partner, somebody else helping me, and I think so in that way again, I'm just like my clients. We all
Mhm.
have
Yes.
areas where we need help, and you need to know to reach out to someone for help and
Mhm.
find that person who's going to help you. And yeah, I mean, I tell my clients too that like if I don't have someone, I don't. I go to a class to work out because I want to go there and just not think about it and have them tell me what to do. Because if I try to do it on my own, I'll just the entire time like I'm on the treadmill and I'm talking myself out of it the whole
Mhm.
time I'm on it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's great. I love that you get help in that key area where you know that is your weakness. That's mine as well. So I thank you for that transparency.
yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to the end. Want to ask if you could give our listeners one or two pieces of advice when it comes to uncluttering and organizing their life. What would that be?
Oh, um, I think the piece of advice, one piece of advice is that I sometimes tell my clients we're aiming for good enough, not perfect.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
Instagram perfect or whatever is a tyranny that we don't really want to live under,
Oh,
you
yes.
know. Um, so good enough is a home that makes you feel good, that you could pick things up in a few minutes, but it's okay if you have some things out on the counter. It doesn't set everything off because you know that
Mhm,
it's organized underneath it all, and you can put those things back to their homes where they go in those labeled places, right? When you
mhm.
are ready to do that, and it won't take you too much time, but it's not, because a perfect home is just too much to
Yeah,
live with.
yeah. Yeah, in this age with, social media being such a big thing in Pinterest and, it's so easy to look at pictures of things, and I want my home to look like that, but and sometimes you can I have struggled with, like, spending too much time on making it all look good and, like, what matters more? That my house looks like something on Pinterest or that I've spent great time with my family, you know?
Right, that you're able to invite a friend over and they feel
Yeah.
comfortable in your home, right?
Right, yeah.
And yeah, that's more important. And I guess the other one too is that I've had clients who feel it's another way that kind of social media feeds feelings of inadequacy, that they feel like, well,
Mhm.
that's not really their style, and then they feel like, well, is my style frumpy or old fashioned, or is my style? And I think your style is you. Your style is
Yeah.
what pleases you and what you like. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if it's not the current fashion.
Right.
It needs to please you. And yeah, it's fun to follow a fad occasionally, but it's also not, you don't have to run out to Home Goods and buy all new stuff. If you like what you have, just bring out the parts of it that are special to you and make
Right.
those stand out more.
Yeah. Needs to reflect you. And I
Yeah.
like also what you're saying about your house good enough and not focusing on perfection. One good definition of whether a space is organized is not like what it looks like at a particular moment, but like how quickly can you
Oh yeah.
get back to some normalcy, because ideally, everything we have would be in its home all the time except we're using it. But I mean, good grief. You could drive yourself crazy like constantly. And
Well,
sometimes
I'm
you just
also
gotta live and
yeah,
relax.
I mean, because I used to be a milliner, I'm actually in my sewing studio right now,
Mm.
and I'll get into a project and I get out all kinds of things,
Yeah.
and then I might have to go and make dinner or,
Right. Yeah.
go work, um and I don't want to put it all away because I want to get right back into it the next time. So
Mhm.
messy doesn't mean disorganized, and yeah,
Yeah.
you can be neat and not organized, but yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to ask you a few lightning round questions, which I
Uh-oh.
don't think I sent you these,
You
but
did
they're
not. This is
okay.
totally
So
unrehearsed.
there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're just this or that.
Okay.
So really easy, just fun things, some related to organizing, some not. Okay. You
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
All right. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Printed or handwritten labels?
Printed.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, both. Different times of
Okay.
day.
Clear bins or decorative ones?
Clear.
Favorite thing to organize or area?
Oh, either toy room or craft room.
Okay. And mountains or beach for vacation?
Oh, I guess beach. Can I say lake
Yeah, you
instead?
can.
I'll
You
go with
can.
sea.
Yeah. You and I are so much alike. I would have answered almost all of those the same way, except I don't drink coffee. But
Oh, I
and
love
so and
mountain.
it's not always a clear choice. Like clear bins or decoratives. Well, it kind of depends on where you are. Like,
I gotta say, I
what do
do
you want it to?
like. Have you seen the ones? My new favorite, especially for toy rooms, in those cube organizers. You can get cube organizers with a window, so you get the decorative fabric and then a window,
Ooh, I've
clear.
not seen them
That
with a window.
combination.
I love, love, love cube organizers because they're so versatile, but I've
Yeah,
not seen them with the window.
on
That's lovely.
Amazon, they
So
have them
best
in
of
both
both
of the 2
worlds.
sizes, right, and then if you don't want the window, you just turn it around,
Right.
but yeah, it's great for kids
Ooh,
especially because
nice.
it keeps it neat looking, but they can still see into it.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, before we get ready to sign off and I ask you how we can get in touch with you and all that kind of thing, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were really hoping that we would?
Oh, I don't think so. This was very
Okay.
comprehensive. It was really fun. Thank you.
Okay. Good, good, good.
Yeah.
All right. So, why don't you tell our listeners? I've already told them they should be following you, check out your blog, and that kind of thing. So, tell us a little bit more about how to find you.
So katebosch.org is my website, as you said.
Mhm.
And yeah, they can contact me through that. There's a let's talk button on there and they can do a
Okay.
free, complimentary consultation. It's a video
Okay.
consultation just like this for anything, you know, if they have questions about either how we might work together or just want to, you know, pick my brain for a few minutes or whatever, we can chat
Okay.
and see if there's something that I can help them with.
And
They
what
can
platforms are you on? Facebook,
Facebook,
Instagram?
Instagram, LinkedIn,
Yeah.
maybe Pinterest coming soon. We'll see. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, or just Google me and you know Google my business. I have stuff, but yeah, um, that's a basic way to find me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been just a joy to have you on today.
Oh,
Thank you
my
for everything
pleasure.
that you've shared, for the tips and the transparency, and just for your friendship and support of this
Oh,
podcast. And so,
thank you.
thank
Thank you
you,
so
thank
much
you.
for inviting me to be here. This was really, really fun. Always
Yeah.
fun to chat with you,
Good.
but great. I'm excited
Good.
about,
Good.
yeah,
All right.
hearing from your audience.
So, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We always love having you on. Um, If you want to communicate about anything regarding the podcast, what do you want to see? Any questions, challenges, get in touch with us. Our email is contact@uncluttered.faith. Website uncluttered.faith. We've got an email list, a monthly newsletter that we send out. If you subscribe to that, you get a free gift of decluttering signs. And if you share the podcast, we love that. And we'll be having a big, huge announcement very soon. So stay tuned for that. And we always like to close our podcast with this. Remember, until next time, an uncluttered life is an abundant life.